For 3 years, I paid my parents' mortgage every single month. Then I found out what they'd really been doing behind my back. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just stopped paying. And the silence that followed broke the entire family. They told me Christmas was cancelled this year. Too tight, they said. Everyone's just staying in. I remember staring at that group chat message from my aunt, the one she'd sent 2 weeks before Christmas, and reading it over and over again, like maybe I'd missed something. But no. That was it. No family dinner. No gathering. No celebration. So, on Christmas morning, I woke up alone in my apartment. Made coffee. Scrolled through Netflix. Ordered some Chinese takeout because, honestly, what else was I gonna do? I told myself it was fine. Times were tough, right? Money was tight for everyone. Family comes first, and if staying home helped them out, I respected that. I'd been sending my parents $1,500 every month for 3 years, paying off part of their mortgage without missing a single payment. It wasn't even something they asked for every time, I just did it because that's what you do when you love your family. Especially after my promotion at the engineering firm. It felt good to help. It felt right. That night, I was scrolling through Instagram, half listening to the sound of my takeout box crinkling beside me, when I saw it, my cousin's story. At first, it was just a nice setup. White tablecloth, silverware gleaming under warm lights, crystal glasses catching the reflection of the chandelier. Then the camera moved. And my stomach dropped. There was my dad, carving a massive turkey that looked straight out of a commercial. My mom laughing beside him. My aunt and uncle clinking glasses. My sister, her husband, their kids, all smiling like they were in a Hallmark movie. Even my grandma, who was supposedly too sick to leave her house. The caption read, "Family only Christmas. Nothing beats tradition, red heart." I just sat there, frozen. Watched it again. Then again. Every familiar face, except mine. The wine bottles alone must have cost hundreds. The food, the decorations, that wasn't a money's tight kind of Christmas. That was a we don't want you here kind of Christmas. My chest felt tight. My hands were shaking as I set my phone down. 3 years of payments. 3 years of being the dependable son who never complained, never asked for a thing in return. 3 years of thinking I was holding my family together, while they were perfectly fine pretending I didn't exist. I walked over to my kitchen counter, where my laptop was still open from paying my own bills earlier. My banking app was still logged in. There it was, the automatic mortgage payment to my parents' account, scheduled for January 1st, like clockwork. I hovered over the screen for a second. My heart was pounding, my jaw clenched. Then I hit cancel. Just one click. 3 years of loyalty, gone in an instant. Then I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and waited. Because if they wanted to pretend I wasn't family, well, they were about to find out what that really felt like. Update 1. The text came on January 15th, almost 2 weeks after the payment didn't go through. Dad's message was short, but I could already hear his tone just from the words. "Hey, is everything okay with your bank? The mortgage payment didn't come through this month. Maybe a technical issue? Can you check?" I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, "My bank account's working perfectly fine." An hour later, my phone started buzzing. Dad. When I picked up, his voice had that same edge I remembered from when I was a kid, that thin, nervous tremor that always showed up when bills were late or money got tight. It was like being 12 again, listening to him whisper argue with mom behind closed doors. "Son," he started, "what's going on with the mortgage payment? Are you having financial problems yourself?" I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. "No, Dad. I'm doing fine." Silence. Then, I said it, as casually as I could. "So, how was Christmas?" He didn't answer right away. I could hear him breathing, maybe shifting in his chair. The pause dragged on for nearly 30 seconds. I could almost imagine him staring at mom across the room, both of them trying to come up with something believable. Finally, he said, "It was quiet. Just me and your mom. We stayed home." I let that sit for a second. "Really?" I said. "Just you two?" He hesitated, then jumped right back to business. "We really need that payment to go through, son. We were counting on it. Could you—" "Hold on a sec," I interrupted. I opened Instagram, found my cousin's video again, the same one from Christmas Day, and pressed play. I didn't say anything at first. Just watched it once more, taking in every laugh, every clink of glasses, every smile that didn't include me. Then I described it to him. Word for word. The full table. The turkey. Everyone laughing. The caption that said, "Family only Christmas." He went quiet again, then started stammering. "Oh, that was just a little thing, nothing big. You said you were fine with not doing Christmas this year. It wasn't planned like that. It just happened." "Really?" I asked. Because it looked pretty planned. Decorations. Fancy table. Wine. My grandmother. My sister. Everyone. He sighed, fumbling for excuses. "We barely spent anything. Just a few things here and there. You're overreacting, son. We didn't want to bother you since you live across town, and you're always busy with work. We figured you'd understand. Next year will be different." I could feel my jaw tightening as he spoke. That same old guilt tone, the one that always made me cave before. But this time, I didn't. "You're right, Dad," I said quietly. "I do understand." He sounded relieved for a second. "Good, I understand that you made a choice about who counts as family and who doesn't." Silence. I let it linger. "The mortgage," I said finally, "is your responsibility now." And then I hung up. The line went dead. For the first time in years, so did the weight on my chest. Update 2. The fallout started almost immediately. My phone didn't stop buzzing for days, missed calls, voicemails, messages. It felt like the entire family suddenly remembered I existed, now that the money had stopped. My sister called first. Her tone? Angry, sharp, like she'd been waiting her whole life for a chance to lecture me. She said I was being petty, that I was jeopardizing our parents' home over one missed holiday. One missed holiday? I repeated. You mean the one where everyone else showed up except me? She huffed, called me dramatic, said I was hurting mom and dad and needed to grow up. So I asked her, calm as ever, why didn't you say anything about the Christmas dinner? You were there. She said it was last minute and they just didn't think to call. That one actually made me laugh. Oh, really? You pulled together a 20-pound turkey, matching place settings, and a full house last minute? Click. She hung up. Didn't even try to defend it. A couple days later, my aunt, the same one who announced Christmas was cancelled, called. Her voice was full of forced calm, like she was the reasonable adult here. She told me I was being dramatic, that families sometimes make choices that hurt feelings, but you don't retaliate financially. Retaliate? I said. That's an interesting word for stopping the thing I was never obligated to do. She sighed and started guilt-tripping me about how stressed my parents were over the mortgage, how this wasn't helping anyone. So I asked her directly, why did you lie about Christmas being cancelled? You were there. You planned it. She said it wasn't a lie, that it just turned into a small get-together later, and I was making it bigger than it needed to be. Really? I asked. Because it looked like 15 people, full dinner service, coordinated outfits. That's not exactly a spontaneous potluck. She paused, then said something about how I seemed busy lately and they didn't want to bother me. That one stung, not because it was true, but because it was such a lazy excuse. Busy? I said. I've been sending mom and dad $1,500 every single month for 3 years. That doesn't sound like someone who's too busy for family. Dead silence. Then, finally, she said softly, maybe we made a mistake. But you can't just put your parents' house in jeopardy because of hurt feelings. I took a slow breath. No, I said. You all did that when you decided I wasn't worth a chair at the table. She begged me to reconsider. Said they'd make sure I was included in everything going forward. I told her, it's too late for that now. The trust's gone. You've already shown me where I stand. Then I ended the call. And just like that, the people who told me family was everything were learning how it felt to be treated like nothing. Update 3. By February, the tone shifted from guilt to desperation. Even my cousin, the one who posted the video, reached out. He messaged me on Facebook, apologizing for how things turned out. Said he didn't realize I wasn't invited. Claimed it was just an oversight. I stared at his message, then attached a screenshot of his own caption. Family only Christmas, nothing beats tradition, red heart. And I asked him, how do you accidentally exclude someone from a family-only dinner and then brag about it online? He read it. Never replied. Then came mom's call. Her voice was shaking the moment I answered. She was crying so hard I could barely make out the words. She said they might lose the house. That they were behind now. That she never meant to hurt me, and that she'd personally make sure I was included in everything from now on. I asked her, as gently as I could, whose idea was it not to invite me? She said it wasn't anyone's idea, just a miscommunication that got out of hand. Miscommunication? I said quietly. So 15 people all ended up at dinner through pure coincidence, while I got told Christmas was cancelled? She sobbed harder. We didn't mean it like that. You're our son. We love you. Please, can't you forgive us? The mortgage payment is the difference between keeping and losing our home. That one hit me in the gut. Because part of me wanted to give in, the part that's been trained since childhood to fix everything. But then I remembered sitting alone on Christmas Day with my takeout box, watching them laugh around that table. I was your son that day too, I said softly. When you decided to exclude me. When you told me Christmas was cancelled so you could celebrate without me. She kept crying, swearing up and down that they'd change. You'll be our first call from now on. Every gathering, every holiday, I promise. I swear on my mother's grave, nothing like this will ever happen again. I closed my eyes. I believe you, I said finally. She gasped a little, like she thought that meant I'd changed my mind. But then I added, I believe you'd include me now, because you're scared. Because you need me. Not because you want me there. There was nothing but silence on the other end. And in that silence, I realized something. For years, I'd been their safety net. Their backup plan. Their walking ATM. But I was never really their family. Not until the money stopped. Update 4. By March, the tone had changed again. Less anger, more desperation wrapped in guilt. It was a Saturday morning when I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, my sister was standing there, no warning, no text. She looked different. Tired. Like the last few months had taken something out of her. She didn't even wait for me to invite her in, just said, "Can we talk?" We sat in my kitchen. She kept wringing her hands like she was trying to hold herself together. The family's falling apart over this, she said. Everyone's fighting about whose fault it is. I didn't say anything. Just waited. After a long pause, she sighed and said, "We did plan Christmas weeks in advance." That hit me like a dull thud, even though I already knew it. Hearing her admit it out loud made it real in a new way. She said the goal was to have a nice dinner, without any stress or complications. And somehow, in that twisted bit of group logic families are so good at, they convinced themselves I'd be happier spending Christmas alone. Then she shook her head. I know how stupid that sounds now. I leaned forward a little. What do you mean by stress or complications? She shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking toward the floor. Sometimes, when you bring up things like work stress, or when you say you feel left out, it makes things tense. We just wanted a positive Christmas this year. I laughed, not loudly, just the kind of laugh that hurts coming out. So I was excluded, because I occasionally mentioned feeling excluded? She didn't answer. Just looked down. The irony's not lost on me, I said. Then she told me my parents were talking about selling the house. Said the mortgage was too much without my help, especially with taxes going up. She said Dad had aged years in the last few months, that he barely slept because he was so worried. I listened quietly, then said, you know, that's exactly the situation I prevented for 3 years. I kept their lights on while being treated like an inconvenience. She looked up, eyes glassy. What would it take for you to start the payments again? I didn't even have to think. It's not about what I need to hear, I said. It's about what I've already learned. She blinked. I learned that I'm valuable when I'm paying bills, but not valuable enough to sit at the same dinner table. That's not a misunderstanding, that's a message. Loud and clear. She started crying, really crying this time. You're destroying this family over one mistake. I shook my head. No, I said softly. The family destroyed itself when it decided I wasn't part of it. She left not long after, tears streaking down her face, muttering something about how I'd regret this one day. But for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. Just clarity. Update 5. By April, things reached the point of no return. My parents listed the house. I found out the same way anyone else would, through a text from my dad. It had a link to the listing and one line beneath it. This is what your stubbornness has accomplished. 40 years of memories packed into boxes because our son chose punishment over forgiveness. I stared at it for a long time. Then, that weekend, I drove by the house. It looked smaller somehow. The "for sale" sign stood crooked in the yard, the same yard where I used to kick a soccer ball around, where Dad once grilled burgers every summer. The same house that held birthdays, arguments, movie nights, and Christmas mornings. I sat there in my car, engine off, watching the wind move through the trees. Every corner of that house held a memory. But all I could picture was last Christmas, that same kitchen table, surrounded by everyone but me. The home I was helping them keep was the same one I was excluded from. As I was about to drive off, my phone buzzed. A Facebook message, from my cousin. The same cousin who posted that Christmas video. He said he'd heard about the house being sold and wanted me to know everyone regretted how things had gone. That the family isn't the same without you. That he missed our conversations at gatherings. I stared at that last part. Then I typed back, you miss our conversations now, but you didn't miss them enough to include me at Christmas, did you? He replied almost instantly, saying he didn't realize I wasn't invited until afterward, that if he had, he would have said something, maybe even left. So I sent him a screenshot of his own caption. Family only Christmas, nothing beats tradition red heart. Then I asked, how do you write family only if you didn't already know who counted as family? He saw it. The read receipt popped up. But just like last time, no response. And that silence said everything. Update 6. The house finally sold in June. My parents moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. 2 bedrooms, 1 balcony, nothing like the home that used to be the center of every family gathering. And just like that, the whole family dynamic shifted. Without that house, without their house, the big family dinners, the holiday parties, the endless weekend barbecues, they all just sort of faded away. The place that used to glue everyone together had been sold off, and with it went whatever illusion of unity we'd been pretending to have. A week after the move, my aunt called me. The same aunt who declared Christmas was cancelled. She didn't even bother with small talk. I hope you're happy, she said. The family's scattered now. Traditions are broken. Relationships are strained. This is what you've done. I took a slow breath and said, you think family unity is something you can buy and sell? She went quiet for a moment, then tried again. You know what I mean. You tore this family apart over one mistake. You let your pride destroy decades of connection. Decades of connection? I repeated. Or decades of convenience? She started arguing again, saying I was overthinking everything. That families make mistakes, that my reaction was way out of proportion. Normal people, she said, would have been hurt, sure, but they'd move on. Not blow everything up. That one made me pause. Because I was hurt. Deeply. But I wasn't the one who'd lit the match. You're right, I told her. Normal families do make mistakes. But normal families also invite all their members to Christmas dinner. They don't cancel holidays for one person while secretly celebrating without them. And they sure don't expect loyalty only from the people paying their bills. She was quiet again, probably realizing she wasn't going to win this one. Then she said bitterly, fine. You made your point. You got your revenge. Everyone's miserable now. Do you feel better? I looked out my window at the city skyline before answering. No, I said. I don't feel better. I feel sad that it took a financial crisis for you all to realize you wanted me around. I feel disappointed that 3 years of helping my parents keep their home didn't earn me a place at their table. But mostly, I feel validated. Because instead of taking responsibility for what you did, you're still attacking me for finally saying no. She didn't respond after that. Just hung up. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel angry. Just done. Update 7. It's been 8 months now since that Christmas morning. My life looks completely different, calmer, quieter, and, for the first time in a long while, mine. Without the $1,500 mortgage payment draining my account every month, I've started saving seriously. My emergency fund's healthy. My investments are growing. I'm even looking at buying my own house soon, something I never thought I'd be able to do this soon. And, unexpectedly, I've started seeing someone. We met at work. She's kind, funny, grounded. She knows the broad strokes of the story, but she doesn't really understand why I won't just make peace. She said to me once, family's family. Holding grudges only hurts you. And maybe she's right. Maybe it does. But this doesn't feel like a grudge. It feels like clarity. I told her, this isn't about one Christmas dinner. It's about a pattern that I finally saw clearly for the first time. Because that's what it was, a pattern. The Christmas exclusion wasn't the start of the problem, it was just the moment everything clicked into focus. Looking back, I can see it everywhere. I was always the dependable one, the problem solver, the understanding son. When my sister needed help moving, I was the one they called. When my cousin needed career advice, my phone lit up. When my parents needed money, it was me. Always me. But when it came to joy, to celebration, to being part of the things that made life feel like family, somehow I was the one who'd understand if plans changed, or if I wasn't invited. Because I was busy. Because I had work. Because I'd get it. And for years, I did. I let it slide. I told myself it wasn't worth fighting about. Now I know better. My girlfriend still thinks I'm overanalyzing. She says families are messy, imperfect, that I should lower my expectations. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am expecting too much. But every time I imagine going back, resuming the payments, sitting around that table knowing I'm only there because they need my money, my stomach turns. I can't unsee it. I can't unknow it. And I can't go back to being the family's safety net when I was never truly part of the family. Sometimes, the clearest kind of love is the one you stop paying for. Final update. Last week, my dad texted me out of the blue. He said he'd been thinking, really thinking, about everything that happened and asked if we could meet for coffee. No family, no pressure, no talk about money. Just the two of us. So we met at this small cafe downtown. Quiet place. Smelled like espresso and rain on concrete. When he walked in, I almost didn't recognize him at first. He looked smaller somehow. Thinner. His hair was grayer, his posture a little more slumped. Like the past few months had carved something out of him. We ordered coffee. He took his black, like always. And for a while, neither of us said a word. Just the hum of the espresso machine and the clink of mugs around us. Then, finally, he spoke. He said he'd spent months angry at me for abandoning them when they needed me most. But lately, he'd started replaying Christmas in his head. He said he tried to imagine how he would have felt if his own family had shut him out of a holiday gathering while still taking his money every month. He looked down at his cup and said quietly, I wouldn't have taken it well either. Then he told me the truth, the part no one had admitted before. The dinner had been planned for weeks. My mom had actually suggested inviting me. But apparently my aunt, the same one who'd sent that "Christmas is cancelled" message, convinced everyone that I seemed stressed and might prefer some quiet time alone. And in the moment, he said, that logic felt reasonable. Even considerate. But when he thought about it later, really thought about it, he realized how wrong it was. They'd made assumptions about what I wanted without ever asking me. They decided I'd be fine being left out. And they'd done all that while cashing in my mortgage payments every month, as if my value started and ended with what I could provide. Then he looked me straight in the eye and said, I'm sorry. And this time, it wasn't the panicked, guilt-soaked apology from months ago, the one meant to fix a financial problem. This one was quiet. Heavy. Honest. He said he finally understood why I'd stopped the payments, and why I'd stayed away. He didn't ask me to start sending money again. He didn't ask me to come to the next family gathering. He just said he hoped, someday, we could rebuild something better. Something real. I told him I appreciated that. That I'd been angry for a long time, but more than anything, I'd been sad. Sad that it took losing the house for him to see me as a person, not a paycheck. We talked for almost 2 hours. About my childhood. About the pressure he'd put on me to be the responsible one. About how sometimes, family roles get cemented so deeply that no one even questions them until something breaks. He said, you did the right thing. You stood up for yourself. Even though it cost us something we can't get back. When we finished our coffee and got up to leave, he hesitated near the door. Then he asked quietly, would you be open to meeting again? Maybe for coffee sometimes. No agenda. Just to talk. I smiled a little. Yeah, I said. I think I'd like that. I told him I didn't know if I'd ever reconnect with the extended family, the trust there feels too fractured, too poisoned. But maybe he and I could build something new. Something based on choice, not obligation. Later that night, I told my girlfriend about it. She smiled and said, see? Family's messy, but there's still love there. And she's right, partially. Family is messy. But she's wrong about one thing, sometimes, the loving thing isn't to forgive and forget. Sometimes the loving thing is to draw a line. To say, this is how I deserve to be treated, and if you can't meet me there, I'll walk away. I'm still angry sometimes. Still sad, too. Sad for what was lost. Sad for what could have been. But I'm also proud that I finally recognized my worth and demanded better. The financial independence I've gained since cutting off the payments? That's been life-changing. But the emotional independence, the freedom that comes from no longer being tied to people who only valued what I gave them, that's priceless. For the first time in years, I'm not living my life trying to earn my place in someone else's story. I'm finally living it for me. And honestly, that's worth more than any family tradition I ever paid for.